Welcome, everyone, to the NoDQ.com live recap of AEW Dynamite for April 30th, 2025. Last day of April. It's going to be May. We have AEW on the road to Double or Nothing. We opened up the show with an explosive 8-man tag team match. We had Kenny Omega, Mark Briscoe, Speedball Mike Bailey, and Kevin Knight the Jet versus Okada, Ricochet, and Matthew's favorite wrestlers, Matthew H., of course, the Young Bucks, Matthew Jackson and Nicholas Jackson. Anyways, we had the big moment, Okada and Omega in the ring together. First time going at it in an official match in AEW. They had their stare down, but then Okada, of course, quickly tagged out and then took a cheap shot when he had the opportunity. The Young Bucks were goofing off. Matthew was taking one of the guy's arm and just drilling it into his shoulder, but then it backfired on him because he wasn't looking at the ring, and he ended up hurting Ricochet. And then we had the good guys beating the crap out of Ricochet. There was a big standoff with everybody. They all started brawling, and everybody kept going for an elbow drop and missing. Then after the commercial break, the good guys did 4 brain busters at the same time. They did 4 dives at the same time. But eventually, the Elite and Ricochet were able to gain the advantage. Then Mark Briscoe got the hot tag, and we had things breaking down. We finally got Okada and Omega going at it for a while. Then the Elite took control of the match with simultaneous TK drivers. Then Mark Briscoe was able to avoid the BTE trigger. He hit the J Driller to Okada, but Ricochet broke it up. And then Kevin Knight drop-kicked Ricochet over the top rope onto the Young Bucks. And then Omega took out the Bucks with a dive. But then back in the ring, Okada was able to finish off Jay Briscoe with the Rainmaker. It was a good match. It was a fast-paced, high-flying match. It was a PWG special, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, the old independent promotion out of Reseda, California. And Excalibur even mentioned PWG during this match. It was good. It was entertaining. Didn't really move any storylines along. Wasn't much storyline advancement in this match. It was just a high-flying 8-man tag team match. And Okada won. Briscoe lost. Pretty much the norm. And that was that. Afterwards, we had the Hurt Syndicate arriving backstage, and they beat up some random guys because they were saying they hurt people, which is the Hurt Syndicate's catchphrase. And then Shelton Benjamin told Bobby Lashley they should trust MJF because MVP would not steer them in the wrong direction. And MVP made it clear that if MJF did screw them over, they would be hurt, or he would be hurt like never before. Then we had the Ops, the Trios champions, Samoa Joe, teaming up with Powerhouse Hobbs and Shibata, going up against 3 random guys, although one of them was Nick Camarado, who's been out of action for like 9 months or something. I didn't even notice he was gone. Basically a squash match. Hobbs picked up the pin for his team with the Spine Buster. And then afterwards, we had the attack by the Death Riders. Claudio ended up dropping Shibata onto the steel chair as Joe was choking out Moxley. Death Riders fled. Samoa Joe got on the apron and cut a promo to hype up their title match in 2 weeks. He called Moxley a bitch, and he said he wants Moxley and he wants him in a cage. It was officially confirmed 2 weeks from now in Chicago. AEW title, Jon Moxley versus Samoa Joe. And no, Joe is not winning, but they're doing a cage match. We'll see if we get some shenanigans in that one. 2 weeks, that Chicago Dynamite is shaping up to be a big one. Next week's Dynamite is in Detroit, and they did not announce anything. I was waiting, and I even asked around, like, did they announce anything? Did I miss something? No, they did hype up some matches for Collision. Nothing in Detroit next week, which to me is shocking. Detroit is a major market, and they drew a big crowd last time they were in Detroit, and now they're just running some theater in Detroit. Nothing announced for next week. Not really doing much to make me want to go. I was thinking about going. They're also running Collision, and there's a 40% off discount for both Dynamite and Collision next week in Detroit. I don't have that much interest in going, and them not announcing anything doesn't help matters. Anyways, that's my little rant about Detroit and next week's Dynamite. Chicago's where it's at. That's in 2 weeks, though. We had a sit-down interview. Renee Paquette talking to Mercedes Moné to hype up the match with Jamie Hayter at Double or Nothing. And Mercedes basically said the Owen Hart tournament isn't really about him. It's about her and her legacy, doing the whole heel shtick here to build up this match coming up. Next up, we had a backstage promo with Christian and Nick Wayne. Jay Lethal interrupted, and he wanted a match against Nick Wayne. And then Wayne was not really sure if he wanted to do this, but then Christian said he accepted it. And then Christian told Nick Wayne to get his damn head in the game. Maybe feels like Christian is going in a babyface direction because Nick Wayne didn't want the match and Christian told him to do it and get his head in the game. More on that in a few minutes. Next up, we had our women's match of the evening. Timeless Toni Storm versus Miyu Yamashita. Not sure how to pronounce these names. She's been on AEW television a few times. She was kicking Timeless Toni Storm's ass, though, literally kicking her ass repeatedly to the point where Luther tried to help out, and he got his ass kicked as well. This was entertaining. And then Miyu continued to build up the momentum, but then Toni eventually got the upper hand after Miyu kicked out of a few things. Easy for me to say. Toni got the win with the hip attack and the Storm Zero. It was one of those Eliminator matches, so you pretty much know Toni Storm's not losing, especially when they're building up the big match, because afterwards Mercedes Moné showed up and was cutting a promo on the stage, but then Jamie Hayter punched out Mercedes and then went for the Hayter raid, but Mercedes was able to flee and get away. It is Mercedes versus Jamie Hayter in the Owen Hart tournament final match, and then the winner, I presume, will face Toni Storm at All In, and it's probably going to be Mercedes because that's legitimately the biggest women's match that AEW can do at this point. And yes, Toni was also dancing to Hayter's theme song. That was funny. There were a couple funny moments here in this match and this overall segment. Backstage, Don Callis and the Callis family cut a promo to hype up Paige versus Fletcher. Then we had the Hurt Business come into the ring, and MVP said they're going to try one more time to get the 3 thumbs up for MJF to join the Hurt Syndicate. MJF came out there, and of course, MVP did the thumbs up. Shelton Benjamin did the thumbs up. And then Lashley was kind of like up or down or up or down. He milked it for a while, but then he went down. So once again, Bobby Lashley rejects MJF. MJF was pissed. He said he's sick of Lashley's shit. He wanted to know what Lashley wants. Does he want Rogaine because he's a big, bald son of a bitch? At that point, Lashley grabbed him, pushed him into the corner, and said if MJF wants to impress him, hurt someone. And that was the segment. I liked it. I thought this was the best segment of the show once again. It's entertaining. This is one of the most entertaining things that's in AEW right now. The only talking segment on the whole show, but I think it was the best thing. I know some people like the wrestling, and I do too, but I like the advancement of storylines, and I like it building to something. And to me, this was the strongest point of Dynamite. So yeah, it looks like MJF will now have to actually do something if he wants Bob's approval. We had Nick Wayne coming out for his match with Jay Lethal, who hasn't been on Dynamite in a while. So you kind of knew how this was going to play out. Christian interrupted Wayne's intro. His music was playing. And Lethal did get in a little bit of offense, but then Nick Wayne sent him into the steel steps. And then after the commercial break, Wayne caught him with the roundhouse and then finished off Jay Lethal with the Fisherman Buster. And then after the match, Christian took the Ring of Honor TV title and put it around the waist of Nick Wayne, I guess finally showing him some respect, which could lead to the turn at some point. I'm still thinking we'll see Nick Wayne turn heel against Christian, and Christian will reunite with Adam Copeland, and that'll set up Cope and Christian versus FTR at All In. This was fairly interesting, this storyline, just to see where it goes. Then we had our main event of the evening, which was Adam Page versus Kyle Fletcher. Good match here. It was intense between the two of them. And then Fletcher had to regroup for a little bit. Page went after him, and then Page threw Fletcher into the barricade back first, and Fletcher's back legitimately got busted up. Then Fletcher was able to get the upper hand with a brain buster on the apron. Page regained control, gave him a tombstone on the floor, and then after the commercial break, Page hit a deadeye. Fletcher kicked out of that, and then he hit another deadeye on the apron, and then came off the top with a moonsault to the outside, got him back in the ring, and then he was going to go for the buckshot lariat, but then Fletcher pushed aside the referee, and while the referee was distracted, Fletcher gave Page a low blow, hit him with a brain buster, but Page was able to kick out of that. Don Callis was absolutely irate. Match continued. Page was able to make another comeback, and then he hit the buckshot lariat out of the corner, then did the normal buckshot lariat and got the 1-2-3 victory to officially advance to Double or Nothing. And I'm not surprised by this, considering this match was in Page's home state in Virginia. And we've already seen Ospreay versus Fletcher. The feud ended. Page versus Ospreay is a match we haven't seen yet. So I figured it was going to be Page going in, that he would beat Fletcher. Fletcher will be fine. He's still getting TV time on a regular basis. But, looking at Double or Nothing, they got their plans, and they'll figure something out for Fletcher. He'll be all right. And that was the end of the show. Page wins. He's fighting Ospreay. No Ospreay on this show, by the way. And like I said, they announced nothing for next week's Dynamite in Detroit. Maybe I'll take a pass on that one as far as going to the event. It would have been cool to go to the theater to see it, but yeah, they didn't even bother to build something up for next week. Maybe we see MJF cost Page the tournament. I could definitely see that as a possibility, and he'll hurt Page to get his his acceptance into the Hurt Syndicate. Overall, Dynamite was another all right show, but they still don't really seem to have all that much momentum going. At least they seem to have a decent turnout and a fairly live crowd. It looked pretty full in that building, and it was a good look. And the crowd seemed enthusiastic. That's a positive. And you got a few storylines that seem to be building momentum. It was a good show, but nothing too spectacular. I probably give it a 6 out of 10. Good Dynamite, but still not a lot of storyline development. That's the problem with these tournaments, and why I'm generally not a big fan of tournaments, because I feel like it's just matches and you don't really have much progress as far as storylines. It's just, we have a bunch of matches and you get the finals at the pay-per-view or whatever. You know what I like? And I wish they would bring it back, but AEW hasn't done it. WWE hasn't done it. I want the one-night tournaments. I was a fan of those. Do it in one night. That way the winner has to go through 3 matches in one night. And it just comes off as more impressive when they can win 3 matches in one night and you really elevate that person. Like I think of the original King of the Ring tournaments, like the 93 one. That's what I want to see. I want to see the return of the one-night tournament, and do one a year. None of this, you got the Owen Hart, then you got the King of the Ring, the Queen of the Ring, you got the Blue League and the Gold League, and then they do a tag title tournament, then they do a mid-card tournament. There's just too many tournaments. We need one from each promotion per year, and let's stop with that. And do a one-night tournament. That's what I want. I want the old school one-night tournament. Bring that back. That's my rant. Dynamite was fine. Double or Nothing coming up less than a month away. It's shaping up. Should be a great show. And I'll be back next week, probably at the usual time. Like, if I was going to go to the Dynamite, then I'd have to record later or do it on Thursday. But I'll probably be here at the normal time for next Wednesday night. And I might go to Collision. I'm thinking about it, just because it's a taped show. I might go. There's better seats for Collision. I could just show up, maybe get that 40% off coupon. So yeah, maybe I'll go to Collision next week. We'll see. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate your viewership and support. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest wrestling news and rumors. Have a great remainder of your week, everyone. Say yes to No DQ, and I will see you all next time.